In 2 weeks, Formula One returns to America at the Miami Grand Prix, and at this event, Mercedes will be unveiling their first big upgrade of the 2024 F1 season. And it couldn't come at a more important time for the Mercedes team after their disastrous start to the 2024 F1 season. And these upgrades fall into two categories: what's been confirmed and what isn't. Let's start with what has. They will be bringing an upgraded floor as well as changes to the sidepod region of the W15, all with a certain aim in mind. Now, Mercedes aim to achieve two major things with this floor upgrade. The first of those being to achieve the right aero and mechanical interaction between the two, which currently with its latest floor, or the reverting back to the test floor, is currently lacking. And secondly, and much more importantly, is the correcting of the flow pattern and the stabilization of the aero map through certain speed ranges. Now, this is something we've discussed on the channel at length here, and it's something the drivers have talked about, it's something the team has talked about, Toto himself, in that their simulations is not just kind of coming from sim to track, it's not correlating. And I would say it's something that has plagued them the most throughout the current campaign. And there is many an example to kind of showcase as a result of that. Take Jeddah for example. Just have a look at this clip on screen of Hamilton v Norris in the final stint in the Jeddah race while on soft tyres. Norris leaves Hamilton for dead in the space of what? 3 corners? That is crazy to witness visually. And it can't continue to happen for much longer. So will Mercedes find the problem? If we study the data from qualifying in a little bit more detail, you can see that Mercedes in the hands of both Russell and Hamilton were losing over half a second to the RB20 and Max Verstappen, and then 0.4 of a second to the AMR24, MCL38 and SF24. Now that is a huge number of cars to be losing that amount of lap time to in just one sector alone. And what the video and lap time loss through those sequence of corners shows me is that the way in which the underside of the floor has been designed and then of course utilized is very much not optimized in such a manner in which the, say, Red Bull or even like Ferrari and McLaren have been able to manage this year. The flow patterns, the flow structures on the underside of the floor are just not generating the sort of levels of downforce and continuous load throughout a corner. And that's why they're seeing this kind of change in downforce points in certain corners. And this is a direct result of the attention to detail that's been put into the design of their floors throughout this current generation of F1 cars. And so I expect huge changes to the underside of the floor when it's introduced in Miami. Now, of course, it's going to be extremely difficult to get any sort of look at this new updated Mercedes floor anytime soon. But even though we won't be able to see the changes, it's quite obvious the areas in which the underside of the floor needs to have changes made to them. And I've highlighted those key areas with circles on the screen right now. And so I would expect all these highlighted areas to be drastically different with this brand new floor. Now take note, of course, this floor was last year's floor, and we do actually have a look at the 2015 floor, but it's not very clear, and so I've gone off of last year's floor to give a kind of very clear look at the different areas in which the downforce is generated throughout a floor. Now, alongside these changes to the floor, there is also one other area which will see changes to that, and that is to the sidepod region of the W15. And we're talking about a reprofiling of the undercut and potentially even the sidepod inlet, as they look to gain a few more cubic centimeters in their undercut region. And like I just mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised to see a change in the sidepod inlet design, as there's plenty of scope to make changes on that particular part of the sidepod. The only question in my mind that is posed is what kind of route or direction are they going to take? Are they going to kind of go down the Aston Martin avenue? Are they going to go down the Ferrari and Red Bull sort of avenue? Who knows? Only time on that particular question will tell. And away from all the confirmed updates that will be brought to Miami this upcoming weekend, there is one other upgrade Mercedes have had in the pipeline, but they're unsure as to whether to bring this particular part to the Miami circuit, and that is of course the rear ring. Now, this new rear ring, what I can tell you from the publication is that they have been able to maximize the load of the rear ring linked to the configuration of the beam wing. Now, I think why Mercedes might be hesitant to actually bring this rear ring to Miami is I believe there's too many things changing on the car, and I think in their mind what they want to work on firstly and most importantly is making sure the major updates to the car are working. So of course, with the floor being the most important part on the F1 car in this current generation, they want to make sure everything about it is working. The low, the downforce points, making sure it stays in the right aero map, the aero window. And I think they don't want to overcomplicate things this weekend with introducing a new rear ring as well. They want to take the data that they've gathered throughout the first 4 or 5 rounds of this 24 season and kind of do, a back-to-back test, I would presume, with the old floor and the new spec floor. And then, of course, they're going to then go away after the weekend, shift through all the data, see if they've found anything that they didn't while in Miami, and then come back to the next races and try to fully optimize the setup from that. And then I think we could most likely then expect to see the brand new rear ring debut on the W15 at a later date. I think they're very worried about bringing too many parts to the car and getting lost through all the data, and I think it's really in their situation a smart thing to do because they've already demonstrated quite clearly that they have a lack of understanding and knowledge about this generation of Formula One cars, and I think the less kind of mumble jumble they can get with all the updates, the better for them. I think they almost have to go like at a table where they go and they tick off each individual thing as they go. And I think that is generally what you do anyway, but I think they need to go through that in a much more methodical manner than which they perhaps have done. Right guys, that's the video. Hope you've all enjoyed it. If you have, leave a comment down below and I'll catch you in another video.